Hi, my name's Angela Casey and welcome to Edinburgh Outdoors, the podcast that explores Edinburgh's green spaces and the people in them. And it's a slightly different episode today, which I hope you enjoy. I went out and met Kenneth Williamson, who is a lifelong train buff and who grew up in Granton. He collects photographs and history and has written books as well about Edinburgh's old railway lines. And you may not be a railway enthusiast yourself, but there's some living history, particularly in the second half of the episode, and also just going around Barnton and seeing places which contain a lot of old history within them. Today I'm visiting the former Barnton branch line, which is now a cycle path and a walkway with lots of lovely greenery along the sides of it and some interesting bridges. It closed in 1951 and it used to run from Barnton to Craigleith. And I'm here with Kenneth Williamson, who's a railway expert and enthusiast, and he's going to talk to us about the line and about his history and just have a wander around this lovely pathway. So welcome to Edinburgh Outdoors, Kenneth.
Thank you.
Very nice to have you here. We've met some dogs already, which is nice.
We've met some dogs. I've always said that I don't care if people don't like me as long as dogs like me.
Well, I'm with you there. So tell me about this railway line and its history. Yeah.
Right. Well, we're standing under the bridge here at Silverhouse Road, and this is the Caledonian Railway's Barnton branch. In the late 1880s, Sir James Maitland, who owned Barnton Park and Barnton House, thought it would be a good idea to turn the whole estate into a country park. And he persuaded, or the Caledonian Railway agreed, to build a branch line from their junction at Craigleith all the way down to Barnton. Sir James Maitland hired or employed a firm of Glasgow architects to design Barnton Park. It was to include 400 villas, and it was also going to have a tennis court, it was going to have a curling pond and gasworks.
Wow.
Now, the tennis courts were built, the curling pond was built, but the gasworks were not built. So in October 1891, the first sod was cut by Sir James's wife, Lady Maitland, and she was presented with a silver shovel by the construction company. They then proceeded to build the railway, and at the one time it was going to be single track, but the contractors halfway through in 1893 decided to double track it. So it was delayed for about a year before they actually got the railway opened. On the 28th of February 1894, when the station opened in Davidson's Mains, it was called Barnton Gate.
Right.
And then it was changed to Davidson's Mains. On the opening of the railway and the first train through, there was quite an extensive crowd to cheer the train arriving at Davidson's Mains railway station, primarily because they gave the kids of Davidson's Mains school a day off.
Ah, so they had a day off so that they all had to go along and wave flags.
Yes, they were all wheeled down to wave flags.
What a lot of blackberries along here.
Yes, we got a lot of people coming down here to pick up all the blackberries and everything like that.
That's really nice.
Yes. Now, the station at Barnton was originally called Crammon Brig because Barnton didn't exist at the time. You only had Barnton Park, you only had Barnton House. But Crammon Brig, there is a bridge there.
Yeah, it was a known place.
It was a known place.
Yeah. So there was a railway line here where we're walking.
This is a railway line to Davidson's Mains. And
and there was another one up there.
Yes.
Just
now,
up here.
It was a big curve that came round to here, but it's been straightened out since it's a walkway. But I've got the maps and you can clearly see where it swung round and it went up over to Barnton, and at Craigleith the junction carried on to Leith, down to Granton Road Station, down to New Haven Station, and eventually into Leith North. And from Craigleith it branched off and came down to Granton. They put in bollards underneath the bridge at Silverhouse Road, and it was quite interesting. There was two chaps putting in the bollards, and one chap was complaining and moaning about how hard it was to dig a hole. And I said to him, well, do you not realise that you're digging a hole on an old railway line and what you're coming across is all the old ballast and everything else? He never knew that.
Well, it would have had to be pretty tough.
Yeah.
To carry those heavy locomotives.
It's interesting because when we had coal fires, Davidson's Mains was a coal yard for Barnton. Because Barnton didn't want coal trains going into Barnton, because Barnton is a wee bit posh, if you can say that. St Leonard's on the south side, that was the goods yard for coal for all the houses in Newington, south side, and they all went in on the old Edinburgh and Dalkeith railway line. In Rodney Street, there was a goods yard at Harriet Hill, which was in front of the tunnel that took you under the new town into Princess Street.
Oh, yeah, you can still go there and see the tunnels, can't you?
Yes.
That's George IV Park.
Yes,
on Higher Place.
That's right. And that was originally the railway down to Trinity.
Yeah, and you can carry on all along that path.
Yeah, right down to Trinity, because that was for the ferry. It used to be the ferry, the Chain Pier. The Chain Pier pub, which has been rebuilt because it had originally gone on fire, was the booking office where you got the train down to Trinity. You went down steps at Trinity Crescent, you crossed over and you went on the Chain Pier. I've got a photograph of the Chain Pier. I've got an advert saying it's the safest pier in the world, blah, blah, blah. They had gymnasium, they had all that kind of stuff. And in 1898 it fell down. So I'm not sure quite how it was, but anyway, it fell down. You can actually see remnants of it, but it's all probably been washed away.
I like that. I like it when you see the bits of what was here. When you walk down Telford Path and Roseburn Path, you can see the old platforms still. And I really like that when you see the old bits and pieces.
If you go across to Dalry, if you go to Lido, you'll see the platforms from the Dalry Road station.
Can you?
Which was the first station basically on this line coming down here.
Right.
You had Dalry Road and you had Murrayfield and you had Craigleith, and at Craigleith the junction carried on to Leith, down to Granton Road station, down to New Haven station and eventually into Leith North. And from Craigleith it branched off and came down to Granton.
It's like when you look at the map, you've got the map on your website, haven't you? And I'll put a link to it, because when you look at the map, now they're all cycle paths and walkways and things, which is fantastic for the people in the city. But at the time, it was like spaghetti, the amount of railway lines going all over, particularly the north side.
Especially the railways in the Leith area were most of them were finished, or the railway stations were closed in the 1930s.
Yeah.
The railways had their day even then.
So we've come to the end of this bit of line.
This closed in 1960.
1960.
This closed down now.
I think I said it closed in 1951.
1951 the railway stations closed.
Right.
The railway stations closed and it was truncated. But this continued to be here until 1960, because, as I say, it brought in coal. I've got a photograph of them shunting in the goods yard.
Oh, have you?
And I've got a photograph leaving and passing House of Hill.
Yeah.
So I've got the three photographs, the train coming in, the train being emptied, and the train going back out.
It's amazing, you've got all these.
At House of Hill.
So what was the goods yard is now Tesco's.
It's now Tesco's.
And we're walking into that now.
Yes, we're walking into the Tesco's car park. On our right-hand side was where the curling pond was.
Right, and you can't see any evidence of that now?
No, I've got photographs of two chaps playing curling. It closed in 1930 and it went to Murrayfield. It went to the indoor curling at Murrayfield.
And we're coming out of the front of Tesco's.
Yes.
Onto Crammond Road South.
Which was formerly called Station Road. And in front of us is the station master's house.
Oh, yeah.
For Davidson's main station. Because all these railway stations it wasn't just a station master, there was a porter, in some cases there was a signalman stayed there as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there were big developments.
So they were a little bit of a community.
They were a community,
Yeah.
The golf courses acquired the land at Barnton Park, the two golf courses. Because of that, the villas and everything that Sir James had envisaged never happened. So you had two golf courses that swallowed up most of the land.
Oh, I see.
Although the houses down here are dated 1894, they were the 14 that was originally built.
Right, so all of his plans got trashed because they decided to build golf courses.
Yeah, the golf courses was never in the original plans. And it's interesting that when there was a dinner for the opening of the railway station, there was a chap who stood up and made a speech and said, this would make a fine golf course. And that was the first time that a golf course was ever mentioned. And the Royal Burgess acquired the land. They used to play at Brunsfield Links. Now, golf away back in the 1880s, whenever it was just a case of turning up with a stick and whacking a ball.
We've walked up Barnton Avenue and we're looking down Barnton Park. And there are the original tennis courts.
That's the Barnton Park tennis court. If you go down there and go round the corner, you'll come to the entrance to Lauriston Castle. Now, we're now standing on the bridge where the railway ran under.
But we just look like we're on a normal street.
And
we're
that's
outside the Royal High School.
And that's the right of way to Barnton.
Right.
This is where the railway went.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Straight along there, straight run to Barnton. Very few people realise that
That's actually a railway line.
that was the railway line. My nephew went to school there and he said, no wonder I had to walk so far if it was an old railway line. I said, well,
it looks like a long way, doesn't it?
you can see where the railway went. There's the railway there. That house is built right on the railway line, and there's a tunnel. There's a tunnel under here.
The tunnel went under there. And is it still, so it's still there?
Well, the guy wouldn't let me dig to find out. He got a bit...
It would be quite good.
But all these houses that we've walked past on the level,
yeah,
that's it. That's the bridge there.
God, that is interesting, isn't it?
And it goes right through now. I've got two photographs taken in the 30s of the bridge and the locomotive.
So how many photographs have you got? Because I started looking on your website and it went for pages and pages. How many do you think you've got on there?
Loads of them. But it's all in albums.
And where have all the pictures come from that you've collected?
Various sources. There's a lot of people in the 60s, late 50s, 60s, when people realised that the railways were going, they organised rail tours, and that's where a lot of the photographs came from.
And people give them to you, do they?
They give it to me, and I just put on and give them the credit for the photographs.
And have you got a lot as well in your house?
Yes, somebody handed me a box of 3,000 and I went through them and you could not believe what was in the box. I refuse nothing but blows.
Yeah.
Whatever anybody wants to give me, I'll take.
You shouldn't publicise that, you'll get inundated. And do you go to charity shops and places like that and have a look for them as well?
I did get a lot of good stuff in the charity shop in Earl Grey Street. I got a lot of old tram photographs, which were excellent, because people just sadly throw them away. Now we're now in what was Barnton Park, and you can see the size of the park, and you can imagine the size of the estate that Sir James Maitland had, and what he wanted to turn into a country park.
We've got some lovely flowers here, look at those. Big space, isn't it?
Very big space. That's the Crammon Boys Club football club play there.
We're coming out of the park. These are some grand gates. We're coming out of the park.
Well, this is why it's called Barnton Gate.
East Barnton Gardens.
That's a well.
Is it?
That's
wow,
where people got their drinking water from. This is Quality Street here.
Quality Street now. I'm getting to know your area.
It's more scenic if we walk round this way.
Right.
Davis's was called the Mutton Hole.
Yeah.
Because they drove the sheep to the markets in Edinburgh, at the Grass Market, Lawn Market, and they stopped off in Davidson's Mains to let their animals rest and everything. And it became called the Mutton Hole.
So we'll go up the steps and over this bridge, which is, we're back where we started. And what's this bridge made of? Iron?
Yeah, there's the iron work. You can imagine blue locomotives and chocolate and white coaches.
Yeah.
But I've got a postcard, because I did a lot of postcards, railway postcards, and in these days you could send a postcard this morning and say that you're coming to your house for your tea, and that postcard would arrive, from almost anywhere in Scotland.
Yeah.
And it's not like that now, but anyway, it used to be like that.
And they were carried on the trains?
Yeah, they were taken everywhere.
Yeah.
But I always had to laugh because the postcard said the Barnton Express, and it's hardly the Barnton Express coming down here.
No.
But you're allowed poetic licence. I mean, it was a wee tank locomotive and then a couple of coaches, and I've got a photograph of them in a kind of dilapidated state. They became the LMS, London Midland Scottish, and they were painted maroon.
We walked over the bridge. We came off the railway line, we walked round, we went over the bridge, down Silverknowes Road, which is a pedestrian
this has been like this forever.
And we've come out...
This is Main Street. It used to be called the Leith Road.
Yeah. So this is your bowling club, you're a bowler?
Yeah.
How long have you been bowling?
I joined this club in 1994.
Yeah.
But I was in Trinity before, probably in the 80s. I used to play rugby and I thought, I'll take up bowling in the summertime because there'll be nobody trying to kick my head in or stamp on me or punch me or anything. Well, you can see the history of 1899. And we got this ground from Lady Maitland. So the railway line runs behind there. Well, that's all the trophies and stuff.
Wow, not really.
It's got everybody's names who've ever won. Everybody who's ever been a champion.
Have you ever been a champion?
My name's up here.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I've never actually won the championship here. I've won the pairs and triples. I'm in the final on Sunday.
So you like playing with other people?
Yeah, because I'm used to that playing with rugby. You're always on a team.
When it first opened as a bowling club, after Lady Maitland gave you the land, you wouldn't have been playing, but it would have been really noisy because you'd have been playing bowls and you'd have had the trains going by.
Yeah, you'd had the trains go by, but they would be not that frequent, just passenger trains, coal trains. It's not a really terribly busy railway line as such. But this land that we've got will never be used for houses. That was one of the stipulations. We got lottery funding, but that we own that clubhouse. We own that whole club now.
It is quite interesting because quite a lot of bowling clubs are going out of business, I suppose, if that's the right phrase, because there's a drop in the number of people playing.
Yes, we don't have that problem. What a lot of people don't realise with the bowling clubs, the companies would give them the land.
Right.
But primarily to keep them sober, because at lunchtimes they would go to the pub. So in order to keep the workforce reasonably sober, and so they can continue working when they come back from lunch, they give them pieces of ground to create bowling clubs. And that's really what the origin is. That's why there's so many. It's to do with works. You got London Road Foundry, Tanfield, Morrison and Gibb. Tramways was a Edinburgh Corporation Tramway Company, give them that piece of land, and so on. And it was primarily to just keep them out the pubs.
So we come along to a stone bridge. This is a kind of masonry work.
Yeah.
And it's called a skew bridge.
Skew bridge. You can see the red stone. That's what the Caledonian used to build all their stuff through Edinburgh and various other places. If you go down Leith Walk, you'll see the remnants of the stations and everything.
It's very soft, isn't it?
It's very soft, yeah. Whereas, like say, Aberdeen used granite.
Yeah. No, it's
very hard
soft.
wearing.
It's a nice colour, though.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
But it will be porous, is that the word? Just the water will run into it and that. But yeah, there was no... It cost £300,000 approximately to build the branch line. And there was like no expense spared.
That was a lot of money in those days.
It's a lot of money. It's interesting that if you go up to the bridges, the Telford Bridge, the red bridges, it's got graffiti and all the rest of it. But that's licensed. They do have to have a licence to do all that. You've got the guy who did all the murals in the Collington Tunnel. That was the school kids in him. I gave him the photographs for the locomotives. Yeah. It was beautiful what they've done up there. That was a very dark, strange tunnel at one time. Now again, you're building a branch line to Balerno and you're kind of looking at what industries have you got along there. But there was snuff, paper mills, and at Curry, believe it or not, that's where Scott's Porridge Oats was.
Was it?
Yep, before it went across to Fife. So that was the industries, and the paper came in at Granton, would you believe?
Yeah.
All the sparrow grass came in at Granton and was taken out to Balerno by train. It was taken to Pennycook as well. Sparrow grass was used for making fine paper, and it came from North Africa, Spain, and they just simply, they just cut the grass, put it on boats. So when it arrived in Granton, we got tortoises and we got snakes and we had all sorts of stuff.
The lady that I talked to walking around Granton told me that her neighbour said that she used to go and get tortoises there.
Yeah, they were just, because they just
simply...
had
snakes as well.
We played amongst the trains down there.
Right, did you?
The highlight of our summer was the sparrow grass fell off the wagons, not a lot, but, kind of like this. So we'd build it all up and the steam engines would go out and shunt.
Yeah.
Mostly at my time it was diesels, but there were still steam engines up to 1968. Steam engine would come over and drop hot coals and set fire, and that was the highlight of our night if we could get a wee fire. It wasn't an iPad, it wasn't anything like that. Oh, look, we've got a wee fire because they dropped the coals and all the rest of it.
That all sounds a bit dangerous.
Well, it was, but kids nowadays don't do anything like that. It was dangerous.
So do you think that's when you got your love of trains from?
Oh, I was always amongst the trains down there, I just loved the trains down there. It was like second nature to us, and we thought it was going to last forever. But yeah, we played amongst the trains. You had the sweetie shop, Hardy's sweetie shop. You had to cross the railway line to get sweet cigarettes. And people with prams bounced them across because the rails were not sunk. The rails were just laid. Nobody got hurt or killed or anything like that.
No.
Do you want to see from the top of the bridge?
Yeah, let's go nuts. So were you ever a train spotter?
Oh yeah. I went to Haymarket Sheds, which was good because it had a big sign, train spotters do not pass this point. And it was right beside the canteen where the men had their cup of tea and all that. And they'd be sitting outside and you'd chat to them and that. But to actually see the locomotives and everything, you had to cut down the back and run along. So we used to sneak round the back.
Oh.
This was the original House of Hill here was the farm. This bridge was built for access to the farm. And then it became houses. And this was the main street, the main road down from Blackhall to the Leith Road.
That's a very fancy bridge to build for a farm though, isn't it?
This is what they did. If you go down on the North British Railway lines down at Powder Hall, Bonington, you'll find a bridge that goes nowhere now.
I think you told me about when you went train spotting to Abbey Hill.
Yeah, Abbey Hill was the station. That's where the guy told me how to get into the station when it was closed.
Right.
The station master. Yeah.
Right.
I used to train spot at Abbey Hill because my granny just lived in Rossy Place, and you just walked up and you got steam trains going back and forward.
It wouldn't be very good for your washing, would it?
Well, no, but again, there's a great photograph which I've got on the website of the viaduct that went Thorntree Street, going along Manderson Street. Well, we were doing a talk and this woman said, oh, my auntie lived there. And my auntie used to get fed up because she'd hang her washing out and the steam trains would come past.
If people who are listening want to go and see some nice bits of old railway or just use tunnels and old stations, where are good places for them to go?
Buy my book and look at the map.
That's a good answer.
Seriously, I mean, the map is quite incredible.
Yeah.
That's the railway clearing map, and you just get that.
But there are stations, aren't there, that you can still see?
You've got Bonington Station, which won the House of the Year award 2 years ago. That's still 100% complete. It's fascinating, that station, because if you look at the platforms, there's the date, 1863, I think it is. That's when the American Civil War was going on. So that one's on the walkway to Leith. New Haven Station is 100% complete, and that is an original station. Its office is on Craighall Road, but if you go underneath, you'll see exactly how it was built. It'd give you a wee bit of fright as to see how they actually built it. But that's the two stations that are still on the old walkway, the old railway lines. That's the two stations that are still complete. If you go down Leith Walk opposite what was the canteen for the Leith Depot, but that was Leith Walk West, and that's where all the bananas came in. All your bananas until the late 1960s, 68, that was Fife's Bananas distribution point.
So clearly you spend a lot of time bowling. So do you spend a lot of time outdoors?
Oh yeah. Yeah, as much as I can get out. I mean, even like in the winter time, we don't have the bowls, but I go out. The best things that to me ever happened was the trams, because I travelled the world chasing trams. Now all I need to do is take a 29 bus to Frederick Street, go onto Princess Street, go on the tram. I can go down to New Haven, I can go out to the airport. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm out as much as I can.
And have there been times that you've ever found that being outside has been helpful to you? Always,
yeah. You're always meeting people. You're always chatting to people. People are always talking to you, and it's great, yeah. I feel sorry for people who are housebound and that. But the bowling club is great.
Yeah.
It gets everybody together. And on Monday I run the bowling section for people with Parkinson's and MS and all that kind of stuff. And that's good. It's all good for your mental health.
So, also, if you're thinking about Edinburgh, you grew up in Granton, and you're from Edinburgh. Where's your favourite place in Edinburgh? Well,
I always like to go back through Granton. I always like to go along the shore road, come up Gypsy Brae, and come back up into Silverknowes. I've been everywhere in the world. I've chased trains, America, you name it, whatever. But I've always wanted to come back to Granton or to Edinburgh. I've never wanted to ever stay anywhere else. I just think Edinburgh's a great place.
It is a great place.
But I certainly couldn't cope staying anywhere that I couldn't get to the sea. I've got to see the sea, which is just down the road for me here. But I was brought up fishing in Granton, so I've always liked to be down there. And I still go down there and just sometimes have a wee quiet seat, just to sort of remember all the stuff we used to do down there. I just wish that the people that I knew, like my granny and all these, were still alive, because, you know, they're great memories of the trains and all sorts of stuff. But we move on, I suppose.
But you're doing a great thing, because what you're doing by the photographs and your website and your books and your talks is you're passing on living history to other people.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, I never had a camera when I was young, and I wish I had. So what I've tried to do is get photographs of everything that I can remember and show people and put on the website and all the rest of it, especially with the likes of the trams and stuff, to see how Edinburgh used to be. It's a funny thing, it just changes so quickly, and it's only when you look back you think, oh wait a minute, what happened to this and what happened to that?
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I've really, really enjoyed our chat today. And I've enjoyed our walk all round Barnton and seeing all those old things.
The railways. It's fascinating. People cycle on the cycle paths and they don't really know the history.
No. I think it's good to know.
Yeah, it's good to know.
Yeah. Thank you, I enjoyed it.
You're welcome.
I'll put the details of your website up on.
Well, that's what it's there for everybody.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It's for everybody to see.
That was an interesting episode. I loved the living history elements of it. And I'll put links on the blurb for the podcast to his website. It is completely absorbing, going through and seeing what he's collected and looking at old pictures of the city and places, of course, which have now gone and been built upon. And as always, thank you for listening to the podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please rate it on your podcast app. And don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues about it too. And if you know of an outdoor space in or around Edinburgh that might like to be featured, please get in touch.